What's going on, guys? This is the Illegal Defense, episode 8. We're in week 8 of NFL. We're gonna get into some of the games that we had last week. A lot of crazy games. And I mean a lot of games that we kind of called right.
Yeah.
Uh, first game we're gonna get into is the Seahawks Chargers game. Seahawks came out on top, 37-23, and they seem to just keep on rolling, and they seem to keep playing well.
Yeah, and if you tuned in last week, we had this as a one of our best bets. I believe it was Seahawks +6 or 6.5. You kind of called outright that they'd probably creep in and get the win here. They did exactly that. We talked about Geno Smith recently having this offense rolling. They're surprising people. They had Rashad Penny go down. Kenneth Walker steps in.
Right in and doesn't miss a beat.
He's just a beast. He's proven as a rookie. He's a solid, starting running back. Probably one of the better running backs in the league already as a rookie, performance wise. So they're able to do enough on defense to hold the Chargers. Their offense puts up enough points. Clearly, they're one of the better scoring offenses in the league. Surprisingly,
which is crazy.
We see DK Metcalf go out, which is surely not going to help them moving forward. But look, Geno's been overcoming all odds so far. They still have Lockett. They'll lean more on the run game as they've been doing. So, but yeah, definitely a huge win for the Seahawks to cement themselves at the top of that division.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
less.
They're number one in their division with the 49ers, the Rams, and the Cardinals. So
Yeah.
that's definitely an impression to be made.
And this is something that we do actually see these things happen every year, where team goes from last to first in a division. Happens like clockwork in the NFL.
Right.
And that's a tremendous thing because of the parity that you're never that far. We hear all the time that the difference between winning and losing is razor thin, and how it's the small stuff that change everything. Well, the Seahawks come in and what it was, the toughest division in football until, or so we thought, until
The AFC West.
that AFC West kind of
And
got
then-
stacked, but that hasn't been looking that great either. But this NFC West, they come in, they would have been clearly picked to finish last with all those teams, and now they're
Right.
sitting at top of it, like you said, all those guys, and just playing impressive football. Pete Carroll, this guy, I don't know,
He's
he
just
found
feeling
youth.
alive or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's getting older, but he's still happy and joyful, and having fun with his guys, and it's a fun story and a fun team to watch.
Yeah, I think that's part of Geno's success. In Geno's earlier stages of his career, he was on the Jets, and obviously we know the kind of organization that the Jets were at the time, and he had that whole incident with the locker room, where he had gotten punched in the jaw, broke his jaw. He was out for a few weeks. I'm sure he lost a lot of people on that team's respect after that. Kind of turned into a journeyman. Played with Philip Rivers, played with Eli Manning, played with Russ, and I think that kind of translates to his game now in a sense, because it's like he had all that mentorship that he didn't have when he was on the Jets, and then he's playing with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll's coaching him up, and you can see it in the game. You can see it throughout the game, even in the Chargers game. There was a point where Pete Carroll was telling him like, "Yo, settle down. It's all right." And I mean, he settled down and ended up scoring in that on that same exact drive. So, and he's not taking like his completion percent. I'm pretty sure he's the number one completion. He has the number one completion percentage.
Yeah, he's taking what the defense gives them.
Right.
But
He's taking shots down the field.
I was gonna say he's doing it the right way though, because he still takes shots, but he's not timid.
No.
He's not being a game manager. He's taking what he can get.
He's taking
and,
risks,
and
too.
taking and managing the risk. So that way they do it the right way. And then when your running game is clicking the way it is.
Yeah,
I mean,
then-
in this game, what is this? 214 to 58.
Yeah,
Rushing
that's
yards,
crazy
I mean, look, that's
considering the
bad.
personnel. So
Yeah, and yeah. So yeah, like we said, the Seahawks team, they're playing well this year. Nice surprise team, and yeah, it'll be fun to see how far they could take this thing.
nah. So the next game that we have is the AFC North matchup that we were speaking about last week with the Browns and the Ravens. The Ravens came out on top. They came out 23-20, and they came out with a win. Um, Not the prettiest game, but the Ravens, they did get it done. Lamar and company, they did what they had to do to put up enough points to overcome the Browns, and the defense held up. Um, some things to kind of take away from this game was the continuity in the passing game. There wasn't, I mean, Lamar talked about it in the press conference. He was like, yeah, there wasn't really much rhythm in the passing game. He only completed 9 passes, I believe. So it's kind of tough to really get going when you only give your quarterback so many opportunities to throw the ball. They even threw him in at running back in one play. It was like a 4th and 1 play, I believe, towards the end of the game. But yeah, I mean the Ravens, they can build on this. They can try to move forward and try to, and again, it was a division game, so that's great that they got the W. And yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But it was a pretty pretty straight game, just a lot of running, a lot of just kind of like what we talked about last week and kind of what we anticipated.
Yeah, and for a Ravens team, this is a very fortunate win for them because they go against a Browns team. This is a Browns team that we know they could get going. Nick Chubb could kind of take over games running the ball. He's hard to stop. He's gonna get his no matter what. But for the Ravens to, like you said, complete only like 9 passes or so, and still come out with the win after some of the things haven't went their way this year is a nice change of events for a Ravens team that I think everyone still expects to compete, and make the playoffs. Like if they don't make the playoffs, I think even them themselves would say the season is a failure.
Right.
So they have playoff aspirations. They have the team to do it. We talked about last week. They have plenty of potential. It's just living up to that potential and
Yeah,
getting
and bring it
everything
out.
everything in the right place. But a win is a win. It's a divisional win at that, so counts even more. And yeah, if you're the Ravens, you're happy. If you're the Browns, you're obviously upset. But you have Deshaun Watson looming. That should be back. I mean, I've heard a chatter about other stuff now, so who knows? But
Yeah.
they knew they were kind of writing the season off and waiting for him. So they keep chugging on, and but the Ravens get a much needed win here.
Yeah, I think the Browns, they'll be all right. They'll keep afloat until they kind of see out what really happens with this whole Deshaun Watson situation. It's not something that they anticipated was going to be an easy thing. I'm sure prior to even getting him. So, with that being said, we're gonna get into our next game with the Chiefs versus the 49ers. The Chiefs came out on top. The Chiefs scored 44 points versus the 49ers defense, and the 49ers were only able to put up 23 points. We saw in between the time, the 49ers were able to acquire Christian McCaffrey, which was huge. Um, Seems like the 49ers just completely annihilated the Panthers franchise. I mean, like Baker goes down, Matt Rule gets fired, and they just take their franchise running back. And Robbie Anderson is already out. He's in Arizona, and yeah, it's just crazy. But yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The 49ers, they're good at football. They're better at destroying franchises, apparently. So yeah, they like you said, they annihilated those Panthers. And yeah, but they come into this game against a Chiefs team that's been playing playing very well. They living up to expectations. They have high expectations with Patrick Mahomes. There's questions about their offense after Tyreek Hill moves on. And they have to acclimate new receivers, but they've been able to put up the points here. This was a game where the 49ers were keeping pace with the Chiefs early on, and then eventually something clicks and the
The
Chiefs
Chiefs
offense
just
explodes and
uh,
they just pull away in a blink. So yeah, I mean, this is a game where you kind of got to see a little preview of how this team will look with McCaffrey. You know,
it was also a short week for McCaffrey too.
right,
So
a very short week for McCaffrey, but you got to see glimpses of how that looks, and this is a team that I like with McCaffrey, right? We saw them keep up, but then they just couldn't keep up with the Chief offense. I mean, not many people can. And it's like the Bills, and that's
yeah,
about it.
once they get a lead, it's really hard. Just like
Yeah.
we were talking about last week with Jimmy G. I mean,
Mhm.
the chances that he'll throw you into a game is slim to none.
But yeah, McCaffrey was there. He was running well. He was catching the ball well. Everything that we would expect from a McCaffrey. And he really he gives them more of what they already have, but maybe in a more dynamic way, right?
Yeah,
We know they have Debo who does the whole running and catching thing, but kind of the opposite, right? As a
as a
receiver
receiver,
that could kind of moonlight as a running back for a few plays and get you some production there.
right?
But yeah, with McCaffrey, now you have a solid, every down running back that takes the pressure off a lot of the other guys, lets them use them in different ways for their offense. And the defense has to key in on McCaffrey every time. We know he's one of the better backs in the league. And any way he gets it, catching or running it can take it to the house at any moment. So it was
It was
fun to
nice to
see their
see. Yeah,
offense and see that. I think for McCaffrey, huge change of pace being on the Panthers all these years. And we know he's had the injuries, but then when he's playing, they're not very good either. Now he gets to be on a team that we
it's
saw make.
consistently good.
Yeah, they're a consistently good team. Great defense behind them. They want to run the ball a lot, so he's not going to lack carries there. And they're a team that they're shooting for another deep playoff run. So
Yeah. I think it works out for him too because it's kind of like with their personnel, they don't just stick to one running back. They rotate those running backs a lot, and
Mhm.
it'll keep his legs fresh, and two, it's not so much of a load on him to where
Mhm.
he has to be the whole focal point of that offense.
Right.
Where he wasn't in Carolina, it was just Christian McCaffrey, and that was really it. Um, Again, I think it'll be fun to see how Kyle Shanahan utilizes him. But I mean, great addition. I think we'll see a lot more from him. We just got like a little hint of it.
Mhm.
He's also in his
I was
hometown,
gonna say that. Yeah,
so
he gets to
that
come
is
back
a
to the
huge
West Coast.
factor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you play in your hometown. It's like a whole different kind of feel. It's almost in a sense. I mean, Odell played in LA last year and we saw his whole mantra kind of change where it was like, okay, he had that spark. So that may be the same thing that the Niners might get with McCaffrey. But yeah, I mean it was a close game at first and then the Chiefs just got away with it and I mean the Chiefs are rolling and they look like one of the top teams to be in the playoffs and probably make a deep run again. So with that being said, I think we want to jump over to the NFC playoff picture and kind of really dissect that whole scene, that whole NFC scene in general. So
Yeah, and I guess we should probably start out west with the Seahawks that we were mentioning before, sitting on top of that division. So far we're like around the midway point here, changing over, from week 7 to week 8 incoming, and yeah, the Seahawks looking good. One loss. I see no reason why they shouldn't make the playoffs, even if somehow one of the other teams catches on. Obviously we see the Cardinals, they get Hopkins
the
back,
Hopkins
which is a
factor.
huge difference from what how their team plays with him and without him. Um, we know the other teams in that division. The Rams, reigning Super Bowl champs, and so on. And so yeah, we talked about the 49ers. They have their playoff hopes as well, but I like the Seahawks here to kind of do enough to fend them off, and even if they don't win the entire division,
At least make a wild
yeah,
card spot.
yeah, they look like pretty good chance to make the playoffs, which definitely takes away hopes from the other three teams there, and yeah, so that division will be one to watch though, with all those guys looking to make moves. We see, like we just talked about, the 49ers making trades to improve their team. They're certainly trying to go for it. Move to the NFC North. This one is a bit of a weird situation with the Packers kind of sliding, but
Right.
the Vikings have been doing well. Besides the primetime game against the Eagles,
They've been
they've
kind of
been
under the radar, really. So
very under the radar. Justin Jefferson has been an absolute monster this year.
yeah,
Was to be expected, but still, and they've been winning games. Only one loss so far. So, Vikings looking like another team. Maybe not as surprising as the Seahawks, but I would say it's probably maybe a more sure thing that they make the playoffs at this point, because if the
yeah,
Seahawks, we could see the Seahawks maybe slide at some point. I
right.
don't think it's gonna happen,
Yeah,
but it
I
wouldn't
don't think
be
it's a fluke at all.
but it wouldn't be surprising if all of a sudden, they something happens and they start losing games with the
Yeah,
Vikings. I'd be a bit more surprised
if they like start
if they
falling off,
if they just
yeah,
completely fell off a cliff, because we look, I don't expect much from the Vikings overall once they get to the playoffs. I mean, we see what happens with put Kirk Cousins on prime time, and
and
some
he just
bad things
crumbles.
happen, right?
Yeah,
But otherwise, I think they'll keep piling up some wins. I doubt they finish with more than 4 or 5 losses tops on their record at this point. I
right.
haven't really dissected their schedule like that, but yeah, and we see the Packers not looking
Still
very well,
struggling.
struggling. They've, I don't know what's going on with them. I mean,
It's
we know we'll get into the Packers in a bit,
yeah.
but yeah, they're certainly struggling. The Bears, they finally got that win against the Patriots. That was surprising to everyone, but
The Bears are going to
regardless,
be the
yeah,
Bears at the end of the
they're
day.
there. So, yeah, and then the Lions are kind of up and down. They're not much.
They're a competitive team, but they just can't close out games.
Yeah, they're
They still
competitive.
have
They're
that closeout
building.
game
They're
thing,
they're
and
making progress, but they're not there at a level to kind of get in this NFC playoff picture party.
right.
Um, but then yeah, we could go to the. I guess let's go NFC South first. Um, that's a kind of a division really
It's kind of
up.
open.
Yeah, very very open, right? We see the Panthers having problems, but and they're probably not going to be competing for it, but
Yeah, I
they're
don't
also
think so. No.
not very far behind the other teams record wise. You talk about the Bucks, they're kind of sliding the way the Packers are with their troubles. We have the Saints, very up and down play from them. The Falcons, nobody really expects
Nobody
much from the
really.
Falcons
Yeah.
this year. So yeah, that entire division is open. There's probably not going to be a wild card coming from there. So it's going to
Yeah, I
be
don't
whichever
think.
team can kind of get to the top of that division is who we're going to see in
Yeah.
that NFC playoffs. Um, but yeah, and the NFC East is more interesting than we would have thought.
I think that's where you're gonna probably see the majority of the wild card teams coming from in general.
Yeah, I mean, if the Packers get it together, I think we'll probably see them either be the wild card or somehow come in and win that division, and then the
Yeah.
other wild card is for sure coming from either the NFC East or the NFC West.
Yeah. So the thing with the Packers is where they have the issues is the head to heads with the NFC East, because say they do get on a roll and they do end up making progress and um not winning the division, but they make a close run to it, and they're one of the wild card teams that are neck and neck with, say, even the Giants or the Cowboys. They have a loss against the Giants. They haven't versed the Cowboys yet, so that's kind of up in the air. They have a loss to the Commanders, and that's kind of like, depending on how close things can get, that may be a big factor. The NFC West, obviously, we know what's going on with the Seahawks. That division predominantly runs like the whole wild card situation. It's usually like one team from, or it's usually two teams from that division that makes it, or even sometimes three teams.
Well,
So
what I think we'll see too is also, the new playoff format where only the first seed
he
gets
gets
the
a
bye,
bye,
and we
right?
have three actual wild cards now against the other three division winners. So there is a chance that, like we said, there's a chance that the Packers could be there depending on how, if they get things together. We
No,
know it'll be tough, especially with the NFC East schedule this year. But, I would expect at least one from that NFC West and maybe another one from the NFC
from the
East
East,
to
yeah.
kind of put enough wins together to you know see who comes out of the playoffs at the end of the year here. Um, you know, but yeah, we could talk about these, especially the Packers and the Bucks here, and what's going on with these teams that, I wouldn't say they're in the conversation with the Bills and the Chiefs, but they were kind of right below them, right? And they were
Yeah,
supposed to be the two teams kind of should
to
be
match
towards the
up well
top,
with them.
and they should be the two top teams in the NFC. I mean, look, if you're a Rams fan or some other, fan of another team, you might say otherwise, but really, two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, kind of always in the mix, and they're just not putting together quality games as teams.
No,
Quarterback play has been not the greatest
subpar at
for both of
best.
them, right? And team wise, I don't know what the issue is, right? The Packers don't have weapons. The
The
Bucks,
Bill, I mean,
the
the Bucks
Bucks
have all
do,
the weapons in the world.
and
Yeah,
they're still not performing. The Bucks were supposed to have one of the best defenses in the league this year, or
no.
it's not really showing up the
So,
same way.
so my whole theory, with, I mean, we could get both. Obviously, we're gonna get into both teams, but with the Bucks, it's kind of, we seen the whole thing kind of pan out with Bruce Arians and Tom Brady, where they obviously they got along, but there was some tension there. And it seemed like the Bucks organization as a whole were like, okay, well, Bruce Arians, we still want you involved, so you can handle operations, and then Todd Bowles will have you be the head coach, and um, Brady kind of gets the, not the dog leash off of him, but Brady kind of gets like a little bit more breathing room, and Brady is doing what he's doing, but it's weird how their offense is struggling, because it's like even Mike Evans last week, like he dropped a wide open touchdown. It's like that's so unlike Mike Evans. Um, I mean, are we seeing Tom Brady kind of like decline a little bit? Are we
It's
seeing it
tough,
like,
when I watch the Bucks play this year, I don't get the feeling like he just doesn't have it.
no?
I get more the feeling that something's off and they're just not executing correctly. And
Yeah,
so
it's
that's
really
what makes
sloppy,
it
their
tough.
football.
And that's what makes it, it's better, I guess, as a team to be in that position because you can still turn things around. But it's more frustrating than if you didn't have the talent to do it because you know that you're not living up to it. And then you have to figure out why. Because it's clear that they don't know why. Because as viewers, I haven't seen anybody really make a point as to why the Bucks are underperforming.
No,
At least with the Packers, right? We know they have receiver issues. That's the big one,
that's the big, yeah, that's the
right?
big gimme right
So
there.
we know the Packers have receiver issues, and maybe they need some more time to gel, or maybe it's just not going to happen this year. But if you're the Packers, you could probably live with that more so than
Because you
if,
know what the problem
yeah, you know
is.
what the problem is. You know that if things don't work out, it's because of that. And look, there's other free agents like Odell on the market. Maybe they try to get him there as much as they can. But when
Yeah.
you're the Bucks, there's no outside solutions.
I
There's no
think,
reasons to point to
yeah,
as much.
it's kind of confusing. There is no reasons. You could point out to the offensive line. They're not playing to the best of their abilities. Maybe they're just not responding well to Brady's criticism. Brady yells at his linemen, and it's more so just to get them on track, not to really be on like, oh, you guys suck.
Well, but look, we talk about Brady a lot, and we've seen different things come out about Brady. Is it the way he talks to his teammate? Is it because he wasn't there to
And
at some part in the
OTAs,
beginning?
yeah,
Is it the whole family thing that maybe he's a little bit checked out right now? But the other factor is it the coaching change? Is
yeah.
it that when
I
Bruce
think it has
Arians
a
isn't there, that's
no.
with because look, Bruce Arians, well-rounded coach, well-respected. Tom Brady comes there, they're able to get things going, right? Todd Bowles, who I think is a great coach, but he's much more defensive minded,
Yeah.
right? So now the offense is having challenges, and now it's like, okay, so now what's going on?
What
Is
is it?
Todd Bowles isn't really able to step in and maybe fix things like a Bruce Arians might be in that situation, and
Yeah.
that's where we might see the gap of
Todd
why,
Bowles and
yeah,
Bruce Arians. I
right,
think, yeah, that's a great point. And Bruce Arians, I mean, regardless of who you are, I mean, he's coached up great quarterbacks: Ben Roethlisberger, Peyton Manning, Carson Palmer. He kind of revitalized his career. So, yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Just the whole factor of not having an offensive minded coach, not having an offensive minded um game planner, because we've seen the defense doesn't look bad. The defense looks great. Aside from last week, they've kind of held up opponents consistently. We just seen the problems and the issues with the Bucks offense, but I'm sure they'll get it back going. The Packers, I'm sure I don't know what they're gonna do. I think they have to sign Odell, or try to go after Odell. But outside of that, it's like it's tough. It's like, what do you want Aaron Rodgers to do?
yeah. I
You
mean,
have
look,
no dependable
I
receivers,
mean, there's
and
look, it's not so they have no dependable receivers right now. I think if you're the Packers, you make signing Odell the priority, but I don't know if that's going to work. Like if I'm Odell, I'm probably not going there.
yeah, I mean, when I wouldn't go there
If
either.
I'm Odell, I think there is genuine interest in the Giants. One, because they're winning. Two, because
The
the
history he
history
has.
with them. Outside of that, I think he's. I mean, if you're Odell, you're probably going to look at either the Chiefs, who can use you, right? They're a high-powered offense, but he can be the featured number one receiver there. With Kelsey being their main target as the tight end, but you put Odell there, he's gonna
That's a
eat,
lot of,
right?
yeah.
And then the other place is Buffalo. Von Miller's been advocating for him to come there the whole time. Their offense is explosive. They have Stephon Diggs, but he knows how to be a solid number two with
Yeah.
playing with Cooper Cup last year. So that would be the places that interest me if I'm Odell. The
Even
Packers, it's tough.
Yeah, even well, what I'll say with the Packers, and I'll say on Odell in a minute. With the Packers, I think it maybe they just need a bye week. Maybe they just need that whole like Aaron Rodgers, relax, everything's gonna. Aaron Rodgers doesn't seem to be like, not like crazy. Like, obviously he's not happy with losing, but he doesn't seem to be panicking. Not that he ever does, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But I think what Packers fans should remember is, coming out the gate, Devontae Adams wasn't a stellar. He didn't have stellar hands. He wasn't the wide
Right.
receiver he is now. It took a lot of time. He was dropping a lot of balls the same way that Dobbs is dropping, same way that Christian Watson was. But and that's where it's like, I think Romeo Dobbs is a great wide receiver. I think it's just going to take some time with
Yeah,
him and Aaron
they take
Rodgers.
time to gel.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers
exactly.
is a one of the highest IQ'd quarterbacks in the league, and you bring in these receivers
Right.
from all these other places, different programs, playing in college to now playing in the NFL. They lost their other receivers, a bunch of them, where they had at least some connection. Now he's playing with a bunch of guys who he doesn't have as much of a connection with. They don't have the reps together. They haven't
Right.
gotten fully on the same page. So yes, sometimes it just takes time to gel. This could be a team that they get things together, and
And they
towards the
turn
year
it around.
they're going on another playoff run. So that wouldn't surprise me either. But what I will say though is their run game has looked good, and their defense has looked decent at times. I mean, there's been stretches where they haven't, but I think it's also, if as an offense you can't stay on the field, the defense is out there all day.
Yeah, they're
That
winded.
that's tough to overcome too. So
Right.
their run game has looked good. If they can get the pass game going, it might be, a net positive overall than what we've seen in years past.
Right. So, and last thing about the Bucks, call Odell. Maybe that's a good addition to have, and he's always wanted to play with Brady. And since Brady's been on the Patriots, so maybe there's a connection there. It's in Florida, great environment, great weather. So that's also another thing to consider. So, speaking of the Bucks, we're gonna get into the weekly previews that we have for next week. We have the Ravens going to the Bucks this Thursday. They're gonna be playing them obviously at the Bucks Stadium, and the Ravens are the favorite, I believe, by minus
Minus one and a
one and a
half.
half. So what's your take kind of on that game so far?
Yeah, I mean, we discussed the problems that the Bucks are having. Can't really put our finger on it. The Ravens, they've had their own issues, but at this point, I'd probably roll with the Ravens here, just because I'd probably just follow the trend, and if the Bucks get everything together and they win this game, you deal with it. But yeah, I think the Ravens will do enough here against a struggling Bucks team. The Ravens. One thing about them, no matter what, is they're dynamic, and they're a solid overall team, offense and defense. They found a way to win the game against the Browns. We see the spread at 1.5 here. This is on the road at the Bucks, probably because the Bucks have been struggling. And yeah, I think this probably turned out to be a close game. In the touchdown or less range, no matter who wins this one. So actually, when you think of it like that, you might have to give some more
Respect
thought
to
to
the Bucks,
the
yeah.
Bucks and Brady being able to come and put the game away on a game-winning drive or something like that. But I think overall, I'd go with the Ravens here. I think they have a lot to play for as well, and they have some games that they've dropped that they regret. I think they'll be ready for this game. They'll go into an environment where weather is not going to be a factor. Lamar is from Florida. It's not going to be crazy humid over there, and they get to kind of do their thing. Probably run the ball a lot against a Bucks defense that is pretty solid
It's
against the
pretty
run,
good, yeah.
but it's different when you have a Lamar Jackson out there. They're gonna be able to put up some numbers. They do have some challenges though. We seen Dobbins go out for the year. We seen their wide receivers are banged up, so they have some challenges for sure. But in a close spread game, like I said, I'll just roll with the Ravens as following the trend.
So I think my heart tells me I want the Ravens to win it, but I think the Bucks, they wake up. I think Brady wakes up. I think they get rolling this game. Again, I think it's also going to be a close game. But I think Leonard Fournette has a big game on the ground. They'll be able to kind of get things rolling on offense, and I think Todd Bowles schemes up Lamar and company. And on top of that, it's kind of I don't know what the status is with Bateman yet, but if
Sat out practice
yeah,
Tuesday.
so that's kind of a key factor I feel like in this game, especially with the loss of Dobbins and leaning more towards Gus Edwards and Lamar with the running game. Um, I think the Bucks. I think they finally get on track. It's gonna be a close game, but I think Tom Brady's gonna have a solid game and something to at least be proud about and something to at least like just kind of work off of. So I think the Bucks win at home, So the next game that we have for the weekly preview is the Giants versus the Seahawks. The Seahawks are actually a -2.5 favorite. Once again, the Giants are the underdogs, and I think the Giants like this narrative. I think they roll with it, and I think Dable just keeps on keeping on. So
Yeah, this one is maybe one of the more funner matchups of the week, right?
which is crazy, right?
Yeah,
Like
I
come to
mean,
to think
nobody
of
would have
that,
said this week
right?
one coming into week one, but now both teams really stepping up. A lot of life into them. A lot of things going their way. The ability to find ways to win on offense and on defense. Both units for both teams had to find ways to step up in
Yeah.
crunch time for these teams. And yeah, like you said, 2.5 point spread for the Seahawks. I do think the Giants like this underdog narrative. Um, it's a tough one. This one is I feel like it should be I guess spread wise, this is a coin flip if it was neutral site, and since it's at Seattle, and we know that
That 12th
that
man
12th man is
is
a real home
tough.
field. So yeah, I can see why that is. Um, yeah, I do probably lean towards the Giants as a Giants fan, and two, as just seeing the way that they've been able to win. If you tell me somebody's going to win by 10 plus points, then I'll tell you that's the Seahawks.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna tell me, oh, it's gonna be a close game, which Vegas thinks it's going to be, I think the Giants will win a close game.
Right.
So with that, I lean towards the Giants here. But yeah, definitely probably going to be a fun game all around. It'll probably be one of those games where
It may be a high scoring game too.
it might be, but it's probably going to be one of those games where people are tuned in, till the end of the game, till the last drive, because it's going to be close. And the last drive is probably what's going to determine it. Either somebody's going to throw and or kick a whatever, score late
Right.
towards the end of the game, or somebody's going to come up with a big stop to seal the game. So
Right. And also the whole DK Metcalf situation is it kind of takes away from the Seahawks offense a little bit
Yeah.
and slightly, and lets Wink Martindale kind of scheme up more against the run, more against Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, Will Disley. I think Gino, he still has a pretty good game, but again, I think he'll struggle a little bit. I think Daniel Jones, he may struggle a little bit, but I mean, he's been taking care of business, taking care of the ball.
there's a lot of parallels in this game, right? When you talk of two quarterbacks who are kind of resurging
Redeeming,
right
yeah.
now, rookies in Kayvon Thibodeau. We saw him come out with a big sack to win the game. Tariq Woolen, on the other hand, rookie,
Right.
has been playing out of his mind, getting tons of picks this year for the Seahawks. Both leaning on the running game. We know Saquon, but now the Seahawks with Kenneth Walker now.
Right.
So yeah, a lot of parallels in this game. It makes for a fun matchup.
What I will say about Kayvon Thibodeau that I like, and well, actually that I love, there was a play in the Jacksonville game where he was already in the backfield. The running back was already like trending towards the secondary, and he was probably maybe like 15, 20 yards away, and he hustled his way towards the running back, and obviously he tackled the running back. But it's crazy because like pre-draft they were saying, oh, he doesn't have the drive, he kind of like quits on plays,
Making like he was like some kind of prima
Yeah, like
donna.
he's
all
putting
about his
in
brand,
effort.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, yo, I just love it. I love this Cape. Like, aside from Daniel Jones and Dable, and obviously he wasn't off to a hot start the way Michael Parsons was, but Michael Parsons is 101, I really think. And I think Kayvon Thibodeau is finding his way, and he's gonna get to that point, or he's gonna get to his own point. But it's great to see him kind of get back on track after that injury that he had in the preseason. But again, I think it'll be a great game to watch, and it's gonna be either, like you said, it's gonna be really close or it's gonna be high scoring. We'll see what happens on Sunday. So the next game that we have is the Packers and the Bills. The Packers are versus the Bills away. The Bills are at home.
Mm-hmm.
they're the minus 10.5 favorite.
Yeah, and this is look, it's this is a game where I think everyone fully expects the Bills to win here, especially with how the Packers have been trending. The line shows that. We saw the Packers lose. Aaron Rodgers kind of mentions like, "Oh, maybe this is the best things for us. We come in, you know, as a huge underdog against the Bills, where nobody expects this for us. Maybe that's when we get to turn things around and play better." And maybe Aaron Rodgers is right. Um, I still like the Bills to win this game. As far as the spread goes, I don't love a huge spread like this
Yeah,
against
that's
Aaron
crazy.
Rodgers, but I will tell you this: I see the most likely outcome. I don't know if it's the outcome that we get. The most likely outcome is something similar to that Rams game in the first game of the year with the Bills,
Man, that
where
was
where it's sort of a close game, and then the Bills just completely pull
blowing
away in
out.
the second half. And and if that happens, this spread will be covered by the Bills. So yeah, that's what I see as probably the likeliest scenario here. And with a Bills team, look, if you have problems with your receivers, you don't want to play the Bills. All
Yeah.
right. If you have problems anywhere, you don't want to play the Bills. They have no holes. They have both sides of their offense are I don't know what the numbers are at this exact moment, but they were, top five in both offense and defense. Um, if they're not in the top five, they're not far from it right now. So yeah, super solid on all facets of the game here.
Yeah.
And yeah, not a team that you want to be playing when you're trying to overcome and work through some issues. I think the Packers lose this game. If they're able to keep it close, they might get some growth out of that. But I don't really see the Packers winning this game.
Man, minus 10.5 is crazy. It's crazy to be going against a Hall of Famer like Aaron Rodgers at any given moment. Who's to say like the most random situation? Robert Tunyon has like a 2 touchdown game, 100 yard like that. I mean, that's kind of out of
But
the
here, but
picture.
here's how crazy this could happen. Robert Tunyon could have a 2 touchdown game, and the
Uh,
Bills still drop 45 on them and win by 15, right? And
man,
that's saying if the Bills drop 45 and they win by 15, that's also saying the Packers drop 30, which
yeah,
would be a surprise in itself because
right,
their
right.
offense hasn't looked
It's
that
just
good.
been struggling. Yeah,
So that's why it's hard. The Packers haven't put up a ton of points all these games. We saw them play the Bills and they kind of just were in control of the game the whole time. They didn't win by a wide margin. They just kind of leaned on the running game, stuff like that.
yeah.
That's probably the way that they win most of these games. That's not going to work with the Bills. We saw the Bills come back against the Ravens after being
Who's
shut down,
yeah, exactly.
come back for a win. So
Man, Packers fans, I'm here to tell you, I got the Packers minus 6.5, and I think the Bills show us that they're beatable. I think I mean they obviously are beatable. They've lost the game, but yeah, I think the Packers take care of business. I think Aaron Rodgers gets his groove back, gets back into control of things, and him and Matt LaFleur get their offense going. Um, I think Aaron Jones has a big game, probably like one of those 2 touchdown, 3 touchdown games, maybe. And I think I'm gonna go with like a 24-28, 24-28 game.
only thing I have to say about that is good luck. And I'd take your bet. I'd love to fade it.
Man, I'm going with the Packers. So, with that being said, we're gonna get into some best bets. We have the first game that we spoke over about. I mean, that we spoke about a little bit with the Ravens versus the Bucks. The Ravens are minus 1.5, I believe, and the Bucks are the underdog at home. For some reason, I just love underdogs at home. So again, I'm gonna stick with my guns and stick with the Bucks and have them beating the Ravens at home.
Yeah, I like the Ravens here. I can't go against I can't go against I can't go against the Ravens here when the Bucks have been playing so poorly. So
Yeah.
I'll stick with what my best bets are. I like the Ravens to cover that 1.5 point spread, no problem, and pick up a road win here against the Bucks. I think the Bucks will get on track. I just don't think it's this game. Similarly to the Packers and the Bills game we talked about. Um, we have the Titans at the Texans. This one is a weird game for a few reasons. So, one, this is a divisional game, and we know this division is notoriously bad, no matter who's playing who.
It doesn't matter
How bad the
great or
team
how
is.
bad a team is. They
Yeah.
have a puncher's chance
Like,
in this division, no matter what.
And it's more even than maybe any other division I've ever seen.
Uh-huh.
Right? I mean, we've seen NFC East battles kind of be tough. We've seen NFC West battles kind of be tough. This AFC South, I mean, you could be the Bills and be the best team in the league, and you could play the Texans as the worst team in the league, and they'll beat
Somehow
you
still
12 to 6 or something like that.
Yeah, it's
It
just
just
crazy.
makes no sense. But here's what I'll say: the Titans started off a bit slow and weak,
But they picked it up.
Since then, they've been cruising and picking up wins everywhere. I like the Titans to cover the spread and win this game against a Texans team that isn't very good. Like I said, we know that this division is very weird in how their games turn out, but I think the Titans will win this game and probably cover this spread against a Texans team that is very up and down, but it's still shown that they're not a very good team. So I like the
Yeah.
Titans here, no problem.
For sure. Yeah, I like the Titans too. I don't think the Texans are going to be able to sustain them.
Yeah. Last game in our best bets, we have the Cardinals going to the Vikings. The Vikings are favored by 3.5 at home. We kind of talked about this Cardinals team, and besides that game against the Eagles, they've been playing pretty well.
Is it a primetime game?
It is not a primetime game.
Okay.
It is, I believe, it's a 1:00 game. So
Oh, wait. That doesn't even matter. It's a prime. I mean, it doesn't matter if that's the case at all. The Cardinals are playing the Vikings. Call of Duty comes out this weekend. And we all know the
Right.
whole correlation with Kyler Murray and Call
Right.
of Duty and his quarterback play once.
Well, look, so I'll say this about this narrative. I buy into it halfway. Here's the difference. When Hopkins is there, everything
yeah,
changes,
everything
right?
changes,
So
of
now
course.
Hopkins is back. He comes in, he's a target monster again. And
I mean, 20 points in fantasy.
yeah, he might be the most I was going to say this about Mike Evans, but it's more so for D-Hop. I mean, this guy is probably the most consistent wide receiver maybe we've ever seen. I mean, this guy does it with no-name quarterbacks,
Yeah,
good
for sure.
quarterbacks, up-and-coming quarterbacks. It doesn't matter. He gets his numbers. So Hopkins is back, but this is a Vikings team that's played very well. I think they'll just be able to put up more points than the Cardinals here. But my outlook on the Cardinals is if I haven't looked ahead to the next week. Probably decent chance they pick up a win right after this one. But 3.5 point spread for the Vikings. I like that, and I think in this situation, Call of Duty might take enough study time away from Kyler Murray where he doesn't.
The little study time that he
Yeah.
does use. I think the Vikings come out with the win on top. Call of Duty aside, I think they're just a more well-rounded team. Their defense is a lot better. The Cardinals, we saw even with D-Hop, they've had some type of little struggles. Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, there's been some tension between them. I think towards the end of the season, I mean, we could probably get into it later on in the season. I think it's going to get to a point where where the Cardinals choose one or the other, and that's a whole nother situation. But I think the Vikings cover for sure. I think -3.5 is a gimme. So with that being said, we're gonna wrap this one up, and this is episode 8. We'll be back with you guys next week. And again, like, comment, subscribe. We want to hear from you, and we want to hear some hot takes that you guys have. So thanks for watching.